Well, when I look at the current global situation, what's happening in Ukraine right now, it's almost like like it's an echo of the Second World War.
Yes.
You know, on the one hand, you got Russia fighting against the Nazis, and here we talk about the Ukrainian deep state Nazi connection. You know, on the other hand, you have America kind of like outside of it, and or like playing around in North Africa during the Second World War, and the Russians saying, "When are you going to open up that second front you've been promising?" But in the meantime, the Russians did the bulk of the fighting, and they really defeated the Nazis. I mean,
Yes.
Nazi Germany's first defeats were at the hands of the Russians. So the Russians were the ones that really turned the tide in the Second World War, and kind of like the United States and the Allied forces, the Brits and all of that, they were kind of like, they were tinkering at the edges, but the Nazis had really wounded, the Russians wounded the Nazis and brought them to their knees. So are we seeing that right now in the Ukraine? And that brings, what that raises in my mind is this thing that Edgar Cayce predicted in the 1930s. I think it was 35, 36, where he said that once Russia had freed itself of the communist yoke and returned back to its Christian roots, it would become the hope of the world. And right now, Putin just gave a major address where he talked about the Anglo-Saxon leaders as being satanic.
Yes,
so he's clearly identified them as being satanic. And Russia's fighting this war against the deep state, which is using Ukraine as a proxy. And even though, I'm sure the Ukrainians are being helped by super soldiers and mercenaries and exotic weapons, but still the Russians are making progress, and they're going to defeat them eventually. So, essentially this raises the question, are we going to have a repeat of the Second World War where at the end of the day, the Russians really crush the Nazis or the deep state, and then you're going to have the American white hats kind of like coming forward and like opening up that second front?
Well, I think it's gotten to this point only because we used Operation Paperclip to bring the Nazi SS and intelligence operatives here to the United States, including some of their rocketry and engineer scientists. That was obviously a huge mistake, but they did it, and they cultivated and expanded themselves throughout our intelligence agencies, and they have spread their philosophy. And, obviously their philosophy it's a problem. It's an absolute problem. Now, do I think Russia is eventually going to do it and take out the Nazis in the Ukraine? Absolutely. They cannot allow these people to continue to exist and threaten them, which is why what I've said about many of the reptilians and the others is that they have to be removed from the equation, because their intention is and has always been to destroy humanity. They cannot be allowed to stay here and live amongst us with that intention. So they have to be removed. During the Crusades, one of the things that Europe learned is that one man defending his home and his family was worth 10 knights, because they would fight absolutely furiously to protect their loved ones. That's what the Russians are doing. That's what they're doing. And maybe some of the Ukrainians are as well, but there are enough Ukrainians and Russian citizens in Ukraine that literally want nothing to do with it, and they want to go back to Russia because they see that it is no longer the communist nation it once was. And they're wanting to be a part of something that's good, that's positive, that's nurturing, that shares some hope, some direction of a future. The United States used to be that. But we've lost our way. We've totally lost our way. And by dumbing down the last 3 generations in the public school system, we forgot what America was really all about. Not to say America was perfect. We've made lots of mistakes. But we always did the right thing in the end. And the Russians are there. They're going to do the right thing in the end. I don't know about the Nazis. It's their way or the highway. And when you back yourself into a corner like that, you're going to get what you deserve. And the Ukraine is going to get that. I mean, 90% of all the laundering of money, regardless of where it is, from human trafficking, drugs, bribery, etc., is run through the Ukraine. Human trafficking is off the scales in the Ukraine from all over the world. I mean, it's just, it was an amazing country at one time. It's just in the hands of the wrong people. It's being run by fascists who simply don't give a damn about humanity. I mean, how do you conspire to want to kill 90% of the world's population? And then you follow through with it. They cannot be allowed to continue to exist. They simply can't. And I'm saying it out loud, okay? And if I'm the only one, fine. But the bottom line is they cannot be allowed to continue to exist. Not when they've said it, this was their agenda, and then they put the program into motion. I mean, God even gave angels weapons to fight evil because he knew that tolerance and understanding were never going to work against evil. And that's what we're dealing with. That's what we're dealing with. We are dealing with people who have no soul. They can't possibly have a soul to be this dark. So that's my opinion, folks. Okay. I know that's not Michael's, and he'll issue a disclaimer at the end.
No, thank you for that.
This is not the opinion of management. I get that.
Well, thank you for sharing that. Well, one of the things that is being proposed by a number of sources, but probably the most prominent source is Ben Davidson from spaceweathernews.com, who puts together, very impressive videos and papers talking about micronova events, and he's convinced that we're about to go through a micronova, and that's going to be very destructive, and it's going to, whether it's going to be an extinction level event or not, that's debatable, but he thinks it's going to happen at some point, whether in the next 5 years, 20 years. So I just wanted to get your take on whether or not you know anything about that. Is a micronova event inevitable, or is it going to be something that will be mitigated by these positive changes that you see happening over the next 5-10 years?
Yeah, I don't see that. I don't see a extinction level event occurring at all for humanity. And they've already intervened and continue to intervene with issues on our sun. They have craft that can put up a fence and block and absorb, an EMP. I mean, they've demonstrated it. We have photographs of those already. They can create a wall with starships and put up a field fence between us and the sun that will send the energy back to the sun. And it would literally just bounce off of the fence that they could put up and protect the Earth. They could also do this if Planet X or Nibiru was to come through. They could also do the same thing so that the gravitational pull would not draw the planet not only out of its orbit, but off its axis, which it has been known to do. So there's, that's, I think, a lot of the reasons why they're here, is to assist in those ways. But what they've got to do is they've got to, smarten us up a little bit, so we have an understanding of what's going on and where we are, not only with each other, but with our planet. We're very fractionalized. We're very disengaged from not only each other, but from the planet herself. And that was all done through media. They did their job very, very, very well, the dark side, to disconnect us. So, when they're talking about 10 days of darkness, I welcome it. I welcome it. Turn off the damn cell phones. Just take it all down. Take down all the Pfizer commercials on TV. Just turn it off. And what'll happen is the kids will lose it for a few days, and then suddenly they'll remember, hey, I can actually go to the next room and talk to my mother, or I can go and talk to my father, or I can actually write a letter, with a crayon. I mean, it's just like, and we see this everywhere. Technology is connecting us, but there's no exchange of frequency between us physically. That's not the same thing. Not at all is it the same thing.
Well,
it's tough. This is tough. Humanity's never been in this place. The white hats have never been in this place. Some of the alliance forces that are here, they're here to learn from this experience themselves. There are other races who have been involved in similar type of rescue missions with us, and they're here not only assisting us, but they're also teaching other alliance races what to do, what are the protocols, how much to get involved, where to get involved, all those things that are necessary, for the evolution of other races that are following behind us. There's always a purpose here. Michael, no matter how hard people resist change, every single person's evolving in one way or another. There is no way they're not. And even the regressives, they're going to evolve one way or another, whether it's this lifetime or another lifetime or 10,000 lifetimes from now. Everybody evolves at some point. All the broken pieces find their way home. That's just it. That's just the way it is, especially if they have soul. Source does not kill itself.